Good morning, evening, whatever it is. It is 12 midnight on September 12th, the first day of the Slowathon and the Diverseathon. And I don't normally start readathons right at 12 midnight, but I just uploaded my Diverseathon last minute TBR thing, and Kales from Kales Corner informed me that Fun Home, one of the books that I'm planning to read, was a musical, and so I was watching a few videos and suddenly I realized it's 12 midnight. So I guess if I'm up anyway, I might as well start. So the first thing I'm planning to read, since it's 12 midnight and I want to sleep soon, is gonna be the shortest book that's on my TBR, and that book is Trip to Tagaytay by Arnold Are. Morning, though it's almost afternoon. Just to update you, last night I was able to finish Trip to Tagaytay, and overall I liked it, but I don't think it wowed me or anything. It was nice that there were lots of references to people and places that I knew, and it was interesting seeing how Arnold Are translated those things to the future and to his future view of what the Philippines would look like, and that was interesting, but overall, again, I liked it, but I wasn't amazed. Currently, I am reading The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie. And I realized today I'm reading mostly Diverseathon things and not anything from my Slowathon TBR. But even though I'm reading my Diverseathon book today, I might as well apply some Slowathon mindset and concepts to my reading experience today. When I'm on my Kindle, I have the tendency to look at the percentage and of how many minutes are left, and sometimes that takes the enjoyment out of reading because I'm focusing more on how quickly I can get the book read instead of just reading. What I'm planning to do for this is I'm not going to let myself look at my progress at all until I finish this book, which is going to be kind of weird because it's not a physical book. I have no way of knowing where I am in the book at all if I'm not looking at the progress. So we'll see how that works out. About the book, so far I'm really enjoying it. Just the first chapter and I already knew that I really enjoyed this writing. And I look forward to continuing this book and finishing it hopefully today. So I just finished The Absolutely True Diary of Part-Time Indian. At one point I kind of cheated, and even though I didn't look at my percentage or page number, I looked at the go-to part of the Kindle where you can see what chapter you're in, and I tried to see how many chapters were left. Based on that, I kind of knew I was near the end at one point, but I tried as long as I could. It was really difficult. I don't think that made my reading experience any better. It just made me a bit frustrated. I don't think it made it much worse. I wasn't thinking about that instead of the book. But I don't think I should do that anymore. I should just try to make a conscious effort not to keep track of where I am, to the point that I'm not thinking about the book anymore, but I don't necessarily need to not care about it at all because it's really frustrating for me. I don't know why. Anyway, onto the actual book. It was really good. I mean, the characters are really interesting and I liked the way that the plot flowed. There were lighter moments and then parts would get really real, and I enjoyed that. But I think my favorite part was the writing. There were so many things that I highlighted. Overall, I enjoyed this book so much and I'm so glad that I decided to read it. Good evening. It is 8 p.m. The weather in the Philippines is ridiculous because it's 8 p.m. at night and I'm still kind of sweating. But anyway, I did get a bit read. I was able to read a third of Dwellers by Eliza Victoria so far, but now I'm ready to continue reading and hopefully finish this book because it's pretty short. Good evening, it is 10 p.m. I wasn't reading for 2 hours straight, but I did just finish reading Dwellers, and before I go to sleep, I guess I should just talk about this a bit. It was really good. Good morning! It is currently day 2 of the Diverseathon and Slowathon, and unfortunately today, unlike yesterday, I do have class, so I'm not sure how much reading I'm going to get done, but I will still try to read. But before I get around to my reading plans for today, I thought I'd just address why I included so much local literature in my Diverseathon TBR by explaining a bit what my goals are by reading diversely. Of course, I want to read diversely to learn from experiences other than my own, but I also want to read diversely to support diverse books so it'll be easier for people to read more diversely. Because unfortunately, the situation right now is if you go into a bookstore and pick up a random book, it's not very likely that that's going to be a diverse book. And that's why we have to be really conscious about reading diversely. But I hope that eventually we can get to a point wherein all of these different cultures and experiences are well represented in popular literature so that people who don't see color or don't care about the sexualities of their characters, or if they're reading about different disabilities and that sort of thing, will by default be reading diversely. Because for now, the people who don't care aren't going to be reading diversely by default. And part of me wanting to support diverse literature is, of course, to support the literature of my own country. Because unfortunately, the situation right now is local books aren't easy to find in the bookstore. It won't be like right there in front of you to see there with the books written by like Americans or people from the UK and that sort of thing. It's kind of tucked in a corner where you won't really notice it unless you're actually looking for it. And I didn't read much local literature at all before I deliberately decided to do so this year because I don't hear about them, because I don't think it's supported well enough. And part of the effect of Filipinos themselves not supporting local authors is that you don't see much Philippine literature in the international market. I have a really hard time finding books that I can recommend to you guys to read, because I know you guys want to read diversely, that come from my own country, because a lot of them can only be bought in my own country. So even though by reading local literature, I'm not necessarily reading about cultures other than my own because I'm a Filipino, and even though I'm able to read other experiences in local literature, I didn't pick any of the books for the Diverseathon that would probably or most likely explore those themes, because most of them are sci-fi. But I'm still trying to support local authors so that people will be able to know more about the book, people in my own country, and hopefully eventually people in other countries. And I guess that's all I have to say about that for now. It's nice that the Diverseathon is not only making me read, but also making me think about these sorts of things. And that's why I'm sharing it with you in this vlog, which is not something I normally do in vlogs. Normally I just talk about the books I'm reading. But on to the books that I'm reading. I didn't do any reading yet today, but last night before I slept, I did read one of the stories in Instructions on How to Disappear by Gabriela Lee, which is a collection of short stories by a Filipino author, all set in the future. And so I'm hoping some of them are sci-fi. The first one doesn't seem very sci-fi, and the first one I wasn't impressed by. It seemed kind of typical, but it was easy to read and I was okay with the writing, so I'm hoping that some of the other ones impress me more. So depending how much time I have, I may read this today if I don't feel like I have much time to read at all, or I might start on my main Slowathon read, Wicked, because today I'm going to class. I'm going to be able to go to the library and pass through and borrow Wicked, and also borrow Fun Home, which I'm planning to read. So if I feel like I have a lot of time to read, I'll probably get started on Wicked, because it's the main thing I really wanted to focus on. If you didn't watch my TBR video, it'll be a reread for me, and it's a book that I read for the first time when I was like 12 or 13, and then I took like 2 years to finish the book. So I'm really hoping I enjoy it a lot more now that I'm older and now that I know what to expect, and hopefully I don't take 2 years, because I know it's a slow readathon, but 2 years to read a book, that's probably a bit much. So anyway, those are my reading plans today. I do have class until like 7:30 p.m, so we'll see how that works out. Good evening, it is 8:30 p.m. and of course I got nothing read. But anyway, what I did get done is I was able to borrow a couple of books, including my main Slowathon read, Wicked. Funny story though, I had this in front of me on my desk, and my prof saw it and started talking about the musical and asking if I often watch musicals and that sort of thing. And then I said yeah, and then he started telling me about how Fun Home was going to come in November and how he was going to buy tickets. And then as soon as he said that, I brought out Fun Home, leaving him wondering if I was a psychic. It was funny when it happened. I don't know if it sounds as funny when I'm talking about it. Anyway, those are the two books that I borrowed. Coincidentally, as I mentioned, they are both books that were adapted into musicals. So yeah, plans for the rest of the day. I'm probably going to start reading Wicked, and in true Slowathon fashion, I'm going to take my time with it. Actually, just started reading Wicked, but before I continue, I just want to point out something I realized. I did mention in my Diverseathon TBR that I couldn't merge my Diverseathon and Slowathon TBRs together because my Slowathon readathon wasn't particularly diverse. And even though it kind of isn't, I feel like the themes in Wicked kind of support the same things we're trying to support by reading diversely. It definitely touches on things like not judging people by the way they look and not looking down on a certain group of people just because they were born under different circumstances than you. And I just thought it was a nice thing to point out how my Slowathon reads actually tie into the Diverseathon and the spirit of it, I think, really well. I don't know, I just wanted to talk about that, I guess.